Okay.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh?
President Donald J. Trump on January 23, 2025 says it is in the national interest to finally release all records related to these assassinations without delay. But what exactly is in those documents? What Donald Trump thinks about the Kennedy assassination? Let's dive in. More than 60 years after President John F. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Texas, the US government has released thousands of declassified files, offering new insights into one of history's most scrutinized events. They shed light on intelligence operations of the era, the CIA's surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald, and covert activities related to Cuba. Here's what we've learned from the latest releases. The newly available files confirm that the CIA closely monitored Lee Harvey Oswald long before Kennedy's assassination. A former Marine, Oswald defected to the Soviet Union before returning to the US, where he continued to attract the attention of intelligence agencies. According to declassified memos, the CIA was aware of his travels, including a trip to Mexico City in September 1963, where he visited both the Soviet and Cuban embassies. Some documents suggest that Oswald openly spoke about killing Kennedy while in Mexico City, though there is no definitive evidence linking these statements to his actions on November 22, 1963. Despite the extensive surveillance, the Warren Commission's 1964 report concluded that Oswald acted alone. The newly released files do not overturn this conclusion, but do highlight gaps in intelligence and questions about whether more could have been done to prevent the assassination. The documents also provide a glimpse into CIA activities during the Cold War. One of the most significant revelations involves the agency's methods of surveillance, including wiretapping operations in Mexico City and other international espionage techniques. A particularly detailed memo explains how the CIA marked tapped telephone booths with special chemicals visible only under UV light, a technique used to monitor conversations of Soviet and Cuban officials. Additionally, documents outline how the CIA attempted to recruit Soviet personnel stationed in Mexico. While these espionage efforts were not directly linked to Kennedy's assassination, they underscore the agency's extensive intelligence gathering operations during the early 1960s. A newly unredacted memo from Kennedy aide Arthur Schlesinger Jr. reveals that the president was wary of the CIA's growing influence. Schlesinger criticized the agency for operating with too much autonomy, particularly in US embassies abroad. He specifically pointed to its influence in France and other allied nations, arguing that the CIA's clandestine activities often overshadowed traditional diplomacy. These concerns came in the wake of the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, which was an unsuccessful attempt to overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro. The documents show that in response to these failures, discussions took place about restructuring the CIA, but such reforms were never fully realized. One of the more intriguing aspects of the files is their disclosure of ongoing discussions about assassinating Fidel Castro. The documents confirm that during President Lyndon B. Johnson's administration in 1964, intelligence assets debated the possibility of eliminating the Cuban leader. The CIA had previously considered using the Mafia to carry out the operation, though Robert F. Kennedy, who was then Attorney General, opposed further collaboration with organized crime. A separate document notes that in 1962, the US government launched Operation Mongoose, a covert effort aimed at destabilizing Castro's regime through sabotage and psychological warfare. While these files do not establish a direct link between Castro and Kennedy's assassination, they reinforce the geopolitical tensions of the time. Despite the massive release of files, some redactions remain. Personal details of CIA operatives and sources have been obscured, and researchers believe that additional files held by the National Archives, CIA, and FBI have yet to be disclosed. Historians and experts remain divided on whether these documents will change the public's understanding of the assassination. While they provide a deeper look into intelligence activities of the era, they do not directly challenge the official conclusion that Oswald acted alone.